As someone who has literally helped thousands of people declutter, I know that the number one mistake that everyone is afraid to make is that they will declutter something that they later need or regret getting rid of. However, I can also tell you that this is actually the mistake you are the least likely to make. You are at far greater risk for committing the other 15 mistakes on my list than you are this one. So let's go ahead and dive into what those mistakes are. And when we get to that one, I will tell you about the time I decluttered something that I later regretted. The first mistake, and this is the one that I personally am the most guilty of making, and that is riding around with donation boxes in the back of my car for weeks or even months. So what you need to do here is schedule a specific time to go take those donation boxes to the donation center, or some places will even do pickups. So that's a great way to motivate yourself to declutter and make sure that you actually get rid of those boxes. A lot of times when you think you're decluttering, what you're actually doing is just shifting or hiding clutter, and you're not really making decisions on it and moving the process forward. So it's very easy to, like, for example, shove a whole bunch of stuff in a drawer so it's gonna look less cluttered on the surfaces, or even just move it, like dump all your clutter in a bin and store it in your storage room or your garage. I will also admit I am guilty of this one. And sometimes it's just necessary. Like, you gotta get rid of the visual clutter. You don't have time to deal with it, but don't mistake that for actually decluttering. If you're anything like me, you have probably watched lots of videos online about decluttering, consumed a lot of advice, maybe read some books, and they all have something to say. Some people will say, declutter a little at a time. Some people will be like, do it all at once. But the mistake that I see people making is that they take this advice, whatever they've most recently listened to, without taking into account how they actually operate best. So you need to take into account your personality and how your household functions, and not just what the experts are telling you. And if you're interested in learning more about the all at once versus a little at a time approach, I have an entire video on that. Just click the link down below. Another mistake I see people making, and of course I'm guilty of this one too, is touching each item a whole bunch rather than touching it once and being done with it. So you're decluttering and you kind of set it off to the side, and then you set it off to the side again, and then you come back and make a decision, or you have like a halfway box and then another halfway box, rather than making the decision once and for all. Anyone who knows me in real life knows that I do not make decisions easily. I like to research and consider every single outcome. It takes me a long time. This is not beneficial when it comes to decluttering, because really all declutter is postponed decisions. We can't make a decision about what to do with the items. We keep putting it off, and clutter keeps building up. So avoid the mistake of constantly postponing those decisions. When you get to the item, force yourself to make a decision as quickly as you can, and don't overthink it. It's really important to declutter on your own timeline and not to do it before you're ready. This is especially important when it comes to maybe decluttering items from a loved one who's passed on, or a child who's gone away to college, like some of that really emotional clutter. You've got to do it at the right time when you're ready, rather than just because you think you should. A lot of times when you declutter, you get really excited, you love the results, which is great, and then the temptation can be to think that you've done it. You've decluttered, we're all done. Well, decluttering is not a one and done type thing. It is really an ongoing lifestyle and habit. So once you have decluttered, you have to realize that it is perfectly normal to keep on going, to just have those regular habits of getting rid of things, have those donation boxes available, because really no one, even the least cluttered among us, gets to a point where they don't need to ever get rid of anything again. When it comes to keeping a clutter-free home, we have to really watch, not just that we get in the habit of decluttering and keep on decluttering, but we have to watch what's coming into the home. If you declutter all the time, but you're not watching those inbound points, then you're gonna be constantly chasing your tail when it comes to this. So be really careful about your purchases, think hard about your purchasing decisions, and of course, all that paper that comes in. If you do have to bring it into the home, the best thing to do is get rid of it as quickly as possible. Don't let it pile up before you deal with it. The one mistake that I have seen people make the most often is this one, and that is holding on to something just in case you might need it someday. Now, fess up, I know we're all guilty of this. You're decluttering and you're thinking, well, what if someday I actually need 92 sticky note sets? Or what if someday I need this massive bunny-shaped platter because I host an Easter party or something like that? You can always come up with scenarios in your head where you might be able to use the item someday. But let's counter that with, what is the cost of holding on to the item versus the cost of letting it go? So if you hold on to it, obviously the benefit of that is if you were to need it, you would have it. But if you hold on to it, you're also going to be cluttering up your whole home. So you're going to be living just in more clutter in general. Chances are pretty good, and this has literally happened to me, that you won't even be able to find the item when you need it. If you have so much, I've bought packing tape like 5 times because I can't find it. And so the chances are pretty good that you're going to have to get it again anyway because you cannot find it. Also, I like to use the 20-20 rule where if it's going to take you less than 20 minutes and $20 to replace it, just go ahead. Like, the chances are very unlikely that there's going to be a day where you just won't be able to acquire sticky notes if you need them. So if you declutter down to only having 5 sticky note pads and later you need one, you can go buy one. So if it's easy to get it back again, don't even stress, let it go. A mistake that I have made a lot when it comes to decluttering my little kid stuff is asking too much of their opinion and really asking the question in the wrong way. Now, let me tell you here, I am not saying that I think you should go willy-nilly decluttering other people's stuff and not caring what they think. That is not true at all. I'm talking specifically about little kids here who aren't able to declutter their own stuff, and you're doing it for them. If you ask a toddler, what they like or if they want to get rid of something, their answer is always going to be, I love that. That's my favorite thing ever. Of course I don't want to get rid of it. Like, literally every single time. So you have to realize that their perspective is a little bit different and ask the question to them in a different way if you are wanting their input. So you can say something like, of these stuffed animals, which are your 3 favorite? Or, put all of your favorites into this bin. So if you kind of spin the question in a different way, you can help them see it, because kids are notorious for thinking that everything is the most precious item they own, and that's just not true. And if you keep every item they said that they liked, their rooms would just be overflowing. Now this one is a lot more subtle, but it's still really important, and that is thinking of decluttering as this huge chore and dreading it, or even worse, complaining about it, especially in front of your family who you might want them to declutter themselves. So you don't want them to look at you and be like, oh, I have to get rid of this. I hate getting rid of this. You want them to look at you and say, I am so excited about all this space I freed up. I love that I can find what I need. And even for yourself, if I go into something and I say, oh, I hate this, it's gonna be miserable if I focus on the things I'm getting rid of, rather than focusing on the positives of what I'm getting back by letting these things go, I'm far more excited about it, and it's just easier to do and easier to stick with long term. This is one that I used to be really guilty of until I realized the mistake that I was making, and that is holding on to the stuff that you're decluttering for the garage sale that you might have one day. Let me tell you, I have had so many imaginary yard sales that never actually happened. So for the most part, most things, you can just let them go. You don't need to wait for a yard sale, garage sale, whatever you call it, rummage sale in your part of the world. But if you are going to hold on to them, make sure that you actually have that on the calendar. That is the only exception I would make. If you truly have a garage sale every single year like clockwork, and you're going to go through the effort of taking each item, pricing it, setting it out, going ahead and selling it, and then donating whatever is left over, then you can do that. But if you're just thinking, well, someday I kind of hope to have a yard sale, don't do it. And I'm telling you, most of the stuff that we would sell at these is worth next to nothing. Like, if you price your shirt at $5 or $10, no one is going to buy it, at least in my part of the world. People go to garage sales are expecting really low prices. They want to get that shirt for 50 cents, maybe $1 at the high end, so you're not probably going to make a lot of money. There's a lot of categories of things that don't even do very well at garage sales. Like adult clothing does notoriously badly. Kid stuff can do a little bit better, but again, it's usually not worth hanging on to it until the future. We all tend to overvalue our clutter. After all, we bought it, we thought it was cool, and we think it's worth a lot, and so we tend to want to sell it online at like Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, something like that. Now, while that's a perfectly good sentiment, and I love the idea of like earning a little bit of money for stuff we're going to get rid of anyway, why not? it tends to backfire because the first problem is we usually overvalue what we have. It's not really worth that much. That Beanie Baby that you bought back in the 90s or early 2000s, whenever those were popular, and everyone's like, oh, it's going to be a collector's item. It might be worth a couple bucks, if that. And you got to factor in the cost of your time. A lot of people overlook this. So you're going to have to, if you want to sell it online, you're going to have to find a place. You're going to have to take a decent picture. You're going to have to write up a description, post it. You're going to have to answer like so many questions. Everyone's always, asking questions. Is this still available? What about this? What about this? Will you take less? You're going to have to make all of those decisions, interact with them, and then you're going to have to find a time where you can meet with the person to pick it up. A lot of people aren't comfortable having people come to their home, so you might need to meet them somewhere. And let me tell you, from experience, the number of no-shows is huge. Anyone who has tried this will tell you that people will just tell you they're going to meet you, give you the $5 for whatever, and then they don't show up. And so it's a lot of hassle. Now, if you have that time available and you realize this is going to be like a job, you have to treat it like a job, and you want to do this for a month or two, great, go ahead. But for most of us, it is just not worth the hassle, and it's better off just letting it go unless it's something that is truly worth $100 or more. You are at greatest risk for this mistake when you are decluttering sentimental items, and that is when you're trying to declutter, getting distracted by the stuff itself. So, you're decluttering photos and then you end up reminiscing and going through all the photos, or like baby clothes. This is the worst for me personally, to get through the baby clothes, because I'm constantly like, oh, remember when they wore this, and I remember when they got that, and then you kind of want to smell it, and you kind of want to imagine what they were like, and then you get out your phone and you're like, oh, I have a picture of them wearing that, and before you know it, like an hour has gone by and you've decluttered like 2 items. So make sure that when you're decluttering, you're not getting distracted by the stuff itself. So if you want to reminisce, that is fine, but don't do it while you're decluttering. So set aside the photo album to look at later, or jot down a note of something you want to reminisce on later, but don't get distracted while you're actually decluttering. This is a big decluttering no-no. Never declutter someone else's stuff without their input or permission. So I know this can be tempting because especially when other people are living in our household, like older children or spouses, and you're like, I don't think they need this, I want to declutter this. That is a huge mistake because it usually leaves them feeling defeated, feeling like they don't have control over their stuff. So that's not the right way to go about it if you want your family on board. There are some better ways to go about it. For sure, setting a good example yourself. For me, when I'm decluttering, my husband often sees that and just throws some things in, and vice versa. He'll be decluttering and then we'll just kind of get in that mode. Setting a good example, talking to them about it, but don't declutter stuff of someone else's without their permission. Now we've come full circle, and remember when I said in the beginning, most people's greatest fear is that they will declutter something that they later need or regret getting rid of. Well, it's time to talk about that. Now, that is a valid fear. It could happen. It's happened to me 3 or 4 times in the thousands and thousands and thousands of items I have decluttered. However, it happens very rarely, so you're wasting a lot of time and mental energy worrying about something that will never happen. And for most of us who are tempted to hang on to clutter, we usually err on the side of keeping all sorts of things in case we need them someday. And you're giving up a lot when you do that. So the cost of hanging on to items that you might need someday is, first of all, if you do this a lot, your entire home just becomes more cluttered. It's not as fun to be in. It's causing you stress. Here's another thing. How likely are you to be able to find that item at the time when you need it? I cannot tell you how many times I've kept something in case I needed it someday, and the someday came and I couldn't find it because I had too much stuff. I didn't know where I put it. So if you're not going to be able to find it and you're going to have to rebuy it anyway, then just get rid of it. I also like to use the 20-20 rule, where if it's going to cost me less than 20 minutes and $20 to rebuy it, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. It's okay that I let something go that I could have used someday. And let me tell you a personal story about when I did this. So when we got married, we registered for this really nice dimware. Like you could drink water or tea, at a meal, and it looked kind of crystal. It was really pretty. I really loved them. Also, it had the stem, so it wasn't going to get your hands all wet if you had something cold. And we used them a couple times when we had guests, and they were great. But here's the thing. When we were first married, our first 2 or 3 houses, we had really small kitchens with very minimal kitchen storage. So we couldn't use that storage space for our stemware, so I ended up putting it in the garage, in the basement, storing it far away from the kitchen. When it came time when I could use them, I had to go all the way downstairs, get them out of storage, bring them up, wash them because they'd been in storage for a while, use them, wash them again, dry them, put them back in, and take them back down. What ended up happening is it was basically never worth the effort for me. So I went years without even using them. And even though I liked them, I decided to get rid of them for that reason. Fast forward a few years, I now live in a much bigger house, much bigger kitchen, lots more storage, and I could use them. I actually have them on my wish list. I think I'm going to rebuy them. The exact same ones because I loved them. But here's the deal. I don't actually regret that I got rid of them because A, it's easy to get them back again. B, I would have had to take up all that storage space, and I wouldn't have done it with just those. I would have done it with lots more things. And I would have had to cart them around, move to move, when they weren't doing me any good. So most of the things that we could have used aren't even a big regret in the end. If you want to make a really fast decluttering progress, I highly recommend you watch my video, How to Clutter Your Home in a Day. And yes, it really is possible. Go ahead and click down below to learn how.